Good morning, everyone. My name is Sterling Higa, Chairperson of the Authority. I'd now like to call to order the October 2nd, 2024 at-large authority meeting of the Hawaii Community Development Authority. The time is now 10:35 a.m.
In accordance with section 92-3.7 Hawaii revised statutes, the Hawaii Community Development Authority is holding today's at-large board meeting virtually on Zoom. The Zoom link details were included on the meeting agenda. Therefore, members of the public are welcome to join us on Zoom and also at our physical meeting site at the American Brewery Building, 547 Queen Street, second floor boardroom, Honolulu, Hawaii, 96813. The HCDA communication staff is hosting this meeting. Once this meeting begins, everyone will be muted for clearer audio. Board members, if you have any comments or questions, please unmute yourselves to speak. It is important that all individuals clearly state their name, pseudonym, or other identifier name each time prior to speaking. If you wish to provide oral testimony and you're attending virtually, please indicate so by clicking the raise hand button found on your Zoom screen. If you are attending in person, you'll be called to the front of the room in the order that you signed up. All testimony will be limited to a maximum of 3 minutes. Your testimony must be related to an item on the agenda. Before you begin your testimony, we ask that you identify yourselves and spell your name for the record. When 1 minute is remaining, 1 minute remains will be called out. When 30 seconds is remaining, 30 seconds remain will be called out. When time has elapsed, time will be called, after which you have 30 seconds to conclude your testimony, and then your audio will be turned on. If you are attending in person, the presiding officer will call the next testifier. Keep in mind that this is an opportunity to share your thoughts with us. If you ask questions during your testimony, neither the board nor the staff is required to provide an answer. If the authority's connection for the remote meeting is lost, the meeting will be recessed until the connection is restored. If the connection cannot be restored within 30 minutes, the meeting will be terminated and the authority will continue the meeting at another notice date. Thank you, Chair.
HCDA board members, please remain visible and audible during the meeting. Also, please acknowledge you are present by either saying here or present. Let the record reflect that the following members are present. Secretary Apo. Secretary Apo. We'll wait for him. Member Anderson. Thank you, Member Strikes. Oh, Member Apo is here. Good. Member Strikes here. Member Evans
here and alone.
Great, thank you. Member Blystone is excused. Member Tsuji.
Present and alone.
Great, thank you. Member China.
Present.
Thank you. Member Sakota is excused. Member Lidstone.
Ew.
Thank you, Member Lidstone. Member Ray.
Here.
Thank you, Member Ray. Member Leong.
Here.
Thank you. Member Lipe is excused. Member Kabibi.
Present and alone.
Thank you. And Member Yamasaki.
Member Yamasaki.
I don't see him on. So, oh, there he is. Yep.
Member Yamasaki.
He's on. Oh, he's on.
Okay.
He's raised his hand. Thank
Okay.
you. All right, for today's meeting, board, yeah. For today's meeting, board members will have an opportunity to ask questions or provide comments after an agenda item has been presented. Individuals from the public who have requested to provide verbal public testimony on a specific agenda item are on standby and will be permitted to provide their testimony respectively. Agenda item number 2 is the approval of the regular meeting minutes of September 4th, 2024. Board members, are there any comments or corrections to these minutes?
Call Francine.
Peter?
Yes.
Oh, sorry, did you have anything on the minutes?
No.
Okay, great, thank you. If there are no comments or questions, the minutes are approved as presented. Agenda item number 3 for information and discussion, an update by the Hawaii Community Development Authority staff on its legislative proposal to 1, amend and streamline Hawaii Revised Statute Section 206E Part X, Transit-Oriented Development Infrastructure Improvement District by making Section 206E Part X or 10 a program within the agency, and 2, amend Hawaii Revised Statute Section 206E-1 findings and purposes to make the purposes and findings consistent with the agency's current responsibilities. Mr. Craig Nakamoto, Executive Director, and Ms. Francine Murray, Community Outreach Officer, will now provide the staff report.
Thank you, Chair. I'll present the staff report. Francine is here as well. For this next legislative session, we just have one legislative proposal. The legislative proposal has two parts to it. The first part is to amend the TOD infrastructure improvement district to make it a program rather than have multiple county districts. This means that any action that requires board approval will go to the general authority board rather than to 4 county boards. The 4 county boards, up to this date we have not had any, volunteers to sit on the boards. We also believe that with TOD infrastructure projects, there is already a structure that exists between OPSD, TOD Interagency Council, and then now HCDA as the implementing agency for TOD projects. When the law was first passed, I think there was a feeling that this kind of community board structure, similar to what we have in Kakako and Kailua, was necessary. Since then, I think at least my view and my thinking has evolved on this, where the OPSD structure, OPSD, TOD Agency Council, and the input that's received from possible TOD projects is sufficient, and it's not necessary to have sort of overlapping community boards, district boards. We have had some initial discussions with key legislators about this change, and we have another one this afternoon. Indication so far is they support this revision to make it administratively simple. The second revision that's also part of this one legislative proposal is to revise the agency's findings and purposes. In other words, it's sort of its mission statement to reflect the agency's current responsibilities. When the agency was created in 1976, there was a findings and purposes. Since then, the responsibilities of the agencies have evolved quite a bit with additional community development districts, additional responsibilities. And we believe that as the sort of the mission statement for the agency, that findings and purposes should reflect as a housekeeping measure what our current responsibilities are. So that's the basically the two revisions in one legislative proposal. And we stand open to questions, Chair, members of the board.
Thank you, Director. Members of the board, any questions or comments?
Chair,
Member Evans.
as the co-chair for the TOD Council, along with the executive director for the Hawaii Housing Finance and Development Corporation, I'd like to support this measure because I think 4 additional boards would not be manageable, and also wouldn't add additional benefit commensurate with the administrative burden that would bring. Also, I believe that the TOD Council will make every effort to include community input on each of the TOD proposals that go into our strategic TOD plan for statewide projects. And we also can provide, with the legislators' support, some seed money to start the planning of those projects. So there's a process. It's a public process. It's a sunshine board. It does encourage community involvement. So I think that in partnership with HCDA and HHFDC, together we can ensure that the public has an opportunity to comment on all TOD areas, zones. Also, Member Strites, we work very closely with the counties on, especially for the city and county of Honolulu, for its innovative and admirable TOD zoning initiative, which I think is a model. And I want to commend the city and county planning department for initiating that. Thank you, Chair Higa.
Thank you, Member Evans, and I'll just add one brief comment that the matters regarding board action will come to this general authority meeting. And so this authority has representation from each of the 4 counties. And so there is a double layer of representation. Members, any other comments or questions? Member Strikes.
Mr. Chair, just want to note that, I'm agreeing in the assessment of the director and board member Evans, and that I also sit on the TOD council to represent the county, Honolulu County. And I think the structure in place there is sufficient between having that and then the general board's oversight. It just seems to be a much more effective structure that's being proposed here, and encourage and support that as moving forward to try and get a result through the legislative action. The other item, I know you did say it's a housekeeping measure, but in a sense, it is also kind of a policy measure in that the board would be accepting those changes put upon it, saying that we're essentially okay with, the changing mission and responsibilities. So I just want to, put that out there, and I'm assuming, Director, that you support this, being that this is, if being presented to us, that those changes are acceptable.
Yeah, I do support it, Member Strites. I support it, I think, for a couple of reasons. I think as I go to the legislature, from time to time, questions often asked about what is your mission? So what is your mission, like a corporation's mission? So Mass, what is your mission? And the mission is in 206E1, but that mission is a little bit outdated for what we currently do. I think the second is in the strategic plan, the board has concurred with the agency's current responsibilities, and I think that should be reflected in the findings and purposes. The bill right now, it still needs a little bit of tweaks on the draft. So once we have the sort of final draft and the justification sheet, I'm happy to share it with the board to show you exactly what those changes are. But generally, that's what it is, and I am supportive of it.
If I could add briefly, Member Strites, I was on the permitted interaction group that helped to revise that strategic plan. The board has discussed this extensively, and I do think that the board has decided that moving in this direction of being a leader in infrastructure development for the state is a niche that HCDA is well suited to fulfill, that we have staff that are capable of doing, and it will serve the broader interests of the state. So I think the board continues to support his current strategic plan, and this is having the law, which was written again a few decades before my birth, reflect what we're doing today.
Thank you, Chair, and if I may add to that too, I think the strategic plan coupled with these changes, recognizes that what we do at HCDA also could include things that benefit the greater state. I mean, statewide. So even beyond the TOD infrastructure. So thank you.
Thank you. Members, any other comments or questions? Great. We'll move now to public testimony. Do we have any persons pre-signed up for testimony? Do we have any persons present or online who wish to provide testimony? Oh, sorry. Okay. Online?
They're putting their hand up and down, so.
Well, let's just call them. M. Hailani Sonoda Pale, if you wish to testify on this matter.
Or is it another matter?
Hello?
Hello? We can hear you.
Okay, great. I just had a question. I was looking through the materials with this agreement with the Navy. What is the
Wrong.
amount?
Oh,
Wrong.
sorry.
Wrong item.
We're not on that agenda item yet, but when we do get to it, I'll be sure to note
Okay,
that you'd
okay,
like.
because there's not much information on the agenda or in the information packet. So I hope
Yeah.
there will be a presentation. Thank you. That's all.
Yep. Would you mind waiting? Thank you. Great. Any other people present or online wishing to testify? Okay, members, any comments or questions? This was just for information purposes, so no decision making necessary. We'll move now to agenda item number 3, a presentation by the Hawaii Community Development staff on the plan for the development of currently owned real property and real property that may be acquired by HCDA in the future, which plan is included as a goal in the strategic plan revised June 5th, 2024. Mr. Garrett Sasaki, Chief Financial Officer, and Ms. Lindsay Doig will now provide the staff report.
Morning, Chair, members. The real estate development plan is one of the short-term goals in the strategic plan. So we went through our inventory of properties to assess the potential for development. We did identify a few parcels that could be developed. The other ones either have long-term leases. The size of the parcel isn't compatible for any kind of development and other factors. So we did identify 4 potential properties that could be developed. It does require additional research, and we do have to look at the cost benefit analysis for those properties. The methodology and everything's documented in this real estate portfolio development plan. It is a first draft. So, subject to all of your feedback, comments, questions, concerns. And from there, we'll, revise it into a more final document to be adopted by the board. That's the 30-second.
Great. Thank you for the staff report. Members, any comments or questions for Mr. Garrett Sasaki? I have a couple of questions. So the first question is, for each of these parcels, at what point would we do an infrastructure needs assessment? Is it like at the time where we're pursuing the development, or do we have any pre-existing knowledge on infrastructure capacity for these parcels?
Go ahead.
You want to pick one and we can start from there, or are you just talking?
Well, I just, in general, right? Like for some of them, though, I imagine we do have an understanding of infrastructure capacity, and for others, we don't, right?
So in Kaka'ako, because we did improvement district projects throughout the district,
Yep.
we have a really good understanding of infrastructure. Not all of them necessarily fall, perfectly on those
Yep.
lines. Some of them do. So for those, yes, we would know exactly what they can accommodate. The ones in Kalailoa, for example, probably not. We would need to figure out, if we want to build, say, housing, well, we need electrical, we need water, and we know those do not exist in certain areas. So it really is, I think, asset specific.
Yep.
But we do have some understanding. So that's why in the report, there's 4 that have the asterisk.
Mhm.
So there are a few that could be developed, but those 4 in particular, we think might be the easiest because of infrastructure, because of location. So they're kind of, maybe we look at those first.
Okay, so that actually answers the second question I had, which was whether the asterisk indicated that there was probably adequate infrastructure, which you're saying for those 4 asterisk properties, they're a good
Maybe,
probability.
depending on what we want to develop, but with the, I guess what we initially think might be a good idea, it seems to be easy, or it might just need a little bit more infrastructure, but it's not something like in Kalailoa, you would build it from scratch.
Great. And then the last part is for these Kalailoa parcels, I know One of the potential uses is alternative energy. Have we or do we plan to engage in any discussions with energy providers for these parcels?
I think that's always a possibility. I mean, we're looking at we look at different, development possibilities, and that would be one. And then there would be others. It could be industrial uses for warehousing, advanced manufacturing. I think the bigger picture notion of this development plan is that as we develop properties for affordable housing or supportive housing, the idea is that those properties might have nominal, monetary returns. They wouldn't be monetized that much because of the nature of what we're doing. That kind of project could be offset by some of monetizing other parcels for development, maintaining some kind of balance. What that balance is, I'm not sure right now, but monetizing some properties or having for example, having affordable housing, like supportive housing, where a question was raised about mixed use. So maybe part of the project is affordable housing, and maybe there's a ground floor retail commercial component that HCDA retains, so that we can this part monetization of the parcel and part for, that's not monetized because it's for affordable housing or some other kind of development, but trying to increase the special funds that we have to other projects.
Sure. I know this is a public board meeting. I would just request that we work with other state agencies that have energy goals.
Yeah.
To let them know that these very large parcels exist in Kailua that could be used for those purposes. That's all. Thank you. Members, any other comments or questions? Okay, do we have any persons pre-signed up for testimony? Okay, Tara Rojas. Online?
Sorry, we just turned on her mic.
Okay.
Okay,
Please go ahead.
okay. Aloha, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so aloha chairs and members of the board. My name is Tara Rojas, one of the people, and I come here in peace to exercise my inherent rights. I remind this body that all political power in Hawaii, as clearly stated in Article 1, Section 1 of the Hawaii State Constitution, is inherent in the people. You are trustees bound by oath to uphold the Constitution, and you are accountable to the people. Regarding agenda item 2 that I actually had sent, a request to testify on, I'd like to address HCDA's legislative proposal to amend and streamline Hawaii Revised Statute, the Section 206E Part X. While this may aim to streamline transit-oriented development infrastructure, it is imperative to ensure that any amendments to the law prioritize public interest and the public trust doctrine. I remind you that any legislative proposal that fails to thoroughly consider the impacts on our natural and cultural resources violates your fiduciary duty as trustees. Streamlining the processes should not mean bypassing due process or public scrutiny, especially when the consequences will affect future generations. In agenda item 3, concerning the development of currently owned and future real property, we need transparency and careful stewardship. The public trust doctrine mandates that you protect these lands and properties for the benefit of the people, not for rapid development or financial gain that benefits outside interests. As trustees, you are accountable to ensure these development plans do not compromise the integrity of our lands, waters, or public trust. On the issue of time limits, I'm going to say this now. Your internal 3-minute policy for public testimony does not apply to the people. We are not bound by statutory jurisdiction when we come before you to exercise our inherent rights. Limiting public testimony on issues such as legislative changes and development plans that impact our communities is a violation of our right to remonstrance and redress of grievances, guaranteed by the First Amendment and Section 4 of the Hawaii State Constitution. Due process violations. Article 1, Section 5 of the Hawaii Constitution guarantees due process, which means the people have the right to be fully heard, especially on matters of public trust. The policies limiting our time to speak and the fast tracking of legislative and development decisions without adequate public input violate the people's right to participate in decisions that affect our collective future. Call for immediate remedy. If you disagree with my claims, I ask you to provide the constitutional provisions that allow you to impose these restrictive time limits and allow rapid development decisions without full public engagement. Otherwise, by tacit acquiescence, acknowledge the breach of trust. If you agree, I request written documentation certifying that HCDA will take corrective action to ensure transparency and uphold your constitutional obligations to the people and the public trust. And additionally, I want to say this also for the record. You know, the public's right to meaningful participation is not just about time limits, it's about transparency and ethics. You know, at the last meeting, at the August meeting, after giving my testimony, you know, I was approached by the chair, you know, Sterling Hinga, you as of HCDA, which is great to talk. However, when you handed me your business card, you know, it wasn't for HCDA, but for your own nonprofit housing venture. So as a public official, your duty and the chairman's duty is to the people, not own interest, not your own interest. How can we trust decisions being made here when personal and professional lines are being blurred? This is yet another reason why these limits on public testimony are dangerous. They keep the public from calling attention to important issues of trust and ethics. Mahalo for your time. I will be testifying on also as well when it comes up. But so lastly, since this is number 3, I'll add this. While the intent to develop properties for housing and community benefit is commendable, I urge you to reconsider how this development, you know, will affect our community and Aina, especially in Kalailoa. The ongoing partnership with the Navy. I know this is a general board meeting, but it's just that the ongoing partnership, you know, with the Navy that you're going to talk about at 10:30, particularly in the context of intergovernmental support agreement, raises serious concerns about accountability and environmental stewardship. So we have seen, you know, how previous military engagements have led to significant environmental degradation and community disenfranchisement. So I'm going to repeat this, you know, as well later, but basically from Red Hill water crisis to the ongoing issues, you know, per Arbor, you as a board need to critically evaluate the implications of the decisions you're making. And again, you're here to serve the people, not own personal interests, nor those of outside entities. Mahalo.
Thank you, Ms. Rojas.
Thank you, Ms. Rojas. Anyone else in person or online wishing to testify on this matter?
No.
Okay, we will now, members, any comments or questions on this matter? For information only, no discussion, or no decision making. So we'll move now to agenda item number 5, the report of the executive director, monthly report and other status reports.
Thank you, Chair. In the interest of time, the report is there in tab 4. Any questions? Open to questions. Thank you.
Great. Members, any comments or questions? We'll now open for public testimony. Do we have any persons pre-signed up for testimony? Do we have any persons present or online who wish to provide testimony? Nope. Okay, this one was for information purposes, no decision making. So we'll move now to adjourn the meeting. Thank you to those of us who joined us on Zoom or in person. That concludes our business for today. The meeting is adjourned. The time is now 11:03 a.m. We'll now take a, do we want to roll right in?
I think we can roll right.
Okay, let's roll right into